A lady went to a salon to get her hair done. While the stylist was working, she noticed a handsome man sitting quietly in the shop. Suddenly, the lady turned to him and said, "Sir, you're so handsome. Can we meet later today?" The man replied, "I'm married." The woman continued, "And so? You can just tell your wife you're going to visit a friend in the hospital, and from there..." The man calmly replied, "Tell her yourself. She's the one doing your hair." A man came home from work with 2 black eyes. "What happened to you?" his wife asked. "I'll never understand women," he replied. "I was riding up an escalator behind a pretty young woman when I noticed her skirt was stuck in the crack of her ass. So I pulled it out, and she turned around and punched me in the eye." "I can understand that," said his wife. "But how did you get the second black eye?" "Well," the husband said, "I figured she liked it that way. So I pushed it back in." A priest confidently declared, "The Bible says life begins at conception." Jeremiah 1:5. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." This is God's truth. The doctor chuckled and countered, "Impossible." Life begins at birth with the first breath of air. That's science. As their heated debate drew a crowd, an old man nearby chimed in with a grin. "You're both wrong. Life truly begins when your kids finally move out of the house." Little Johnny is always the target of teasing from the other boys in the neighborhood who like to call him stupid. Their favorite trick is to offer him a choice between a nickel and a dime, and Johnny always takes the nickel. One day, after Johnny takes the nickel yet again, a neighbor pulls him aside and says, "Johnny, those boys are making fun of you. Don't you know a dime is worth more than a nickel, even though the nickel's bigger?" Johnny grins and replies, "Well, if I took the dime, they'd stop doing it. But so far, I've made $20. A woman hears a knock at the door. When she opens it, a man asks, "Do you have a spare room?" She slams the door in disgust. The next morning, the same man shows up. Again, he asks, "Do you have a spare room?" She slams the door once more. That night, when her husband gets home, she tells him what's been happening. The husband says, "Honey, tomorrow I'll stay home. If he shows up again, I'll hide behind the door. Answer yes. I want to hear where this joker is going with it." The next morning, the man knocks again. "Do you have a spare room?" The wife replies, "Yes, actually, I do." The man grins and says, "Great. Then tell your husband to stay in yours and stop sneaking into mine." 6 guys were playing poker when Smith loses $500 on a single hand, clutches his chest, and drops dead at the table. Showing respect for their fallen comrade, the other 5 complete their playing time standing up. Roberts looks around and asks, "Now, who is going to tell the wife?" They draw straws. Rippington, who is always a loser, picks the short one. They tell him to be discreet, be gentle, don't make a bad situation any worse than it is. "Gentlemen, discreet. I'm the most discreet man you will ever meet. Discretion is my middle name. Leave it to me." Rippington walks over to the Smith house, knocks on the door. The wife answers and asks what he wants. Rippington says, "Your husband just lost $500 playing cards." She hollers, "Tell him to drop dead." Rippington says, "I'll tell him." A nun wakes up one morning and decides to go for a walk. She gets out of bed and puts on her shoes. As she's walking down the hallway to the convent kitchen, another nun looks at her, smiles, and says, "Someone got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning." She thought this was strange, but decides to ignore it and keeps on walking. A few moments later, she runs into another nun who says, "Someone got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning." By the end of the hallway, and after 5 more encounters, the nun is furious, so she marches straight to the head sister's office and throws the door open. The head nun starts to speak when the other shouts, "Don't you dare tell me I got up on the wrong side of the bed this morning! It's all I've heard this morning, and I'm fed up with it!" Stunned, the head nun says calmly, "I was going to say nothing of the sort. I was merely going to ask, why are you wearing the bishop's slippers?" Man does all the housework, so he and his wife can be intimate, but the reality is priceless. Jenny had always been taught that housework is a woman's job. One evening, however, she came home from work to find the children bathed, one load of laundry in the washer and another in the dryer. Dinner was on the stove, and the table was already set. She was astonished. It turned out that her husband, Ralph, had read an article that said, wives who work full-time and then do all the housework are often too tired for romance. That night went very well. The next day, Jenny told her friends at the office all about it. "We had a great dinner. Ralph even cleaned up the kitchen, helped the kids with their homework, folded the laundry, and put it all away." I really enjoyed the evening. Her friends leaned in and asked, "But what about afterwards?" Jenny sighed and said, "Oh, Ralph was too tired." A guy goes to the supermarket and notices an attractive woman waving at him. She says hello. He's taken aback, unable to place where he knows her from. So he asks, "Do you know me?" She replies, "I think you're the father of one of my children." His mind races back to the only time he'd ever been unfaithful to his wife. Nervously, he blurts out, "My God! Are you the stripper from my bachelor party? The one on the pool table with all my buddies watching while your partner whipped me with wet celery?" She looks him straight in the eye and says calmly, "No, I'm your son's teacher." In a small-town trial, a Southern prosecuting attorney called his first witness, an elderly grandmother, to the stand. He approached her and asked, "Mrs. Jones, do you know me?" She replied, "Why, yes, I do know you, Mr. Williams. I've known you since you were a boy, and frankly, you've been a big disappointment. You lie, you cheat on your wife, you manipulate people, and you talk about them behind their backs. You think you're a big shot, but you don't have the brains to realize you'll never amount to more than a two-bit paper pusher." "Yes, I know you." The lawyer was stunned. Not knowing what else to do, he pointed across the room and asked, "Mrs. Jones, do you know the defense attorney?" She calmly replied, "Why, yes, I do. I've known Mr. Bradley since he was young, too. He's lazy, arrogant, and has a drinking problem. He can't build a normal relationship with anyone, and his law practice is one of the worst in the state. Not to mention, he cheated on his wife with 3 different women. One of them was your wife. Yes, I know him." The defense attorney nearly fainted. The judge quietly called both lawyers to the bench and said in a low voice, "If either of you idiots asks her if she knows me, I'll have you both sent to the electric chair." After 47 years of marriage, Roy and Kelly had mastered 2 things: arguing over nonsense and dancing in the living room at 6 p.m. sharp. One evening, Kelly stormed into the room, arms crossed and eyebrows furrowed. "You loaded the dishwasher wrong again, Roy." Roy, unfazed, sipped his lukewarm coffee and replied, "Well, if I'm going to mess it up, I might as well be consistent." Kelly scoffed. Roy turned up the volume on their old record player. Frank Sinatra's voice filled the air. With a dramatic bow, Roy said, "May I have this dance?" Kelly rolled her eyes but took his hand. "Only because I can't yell while twirling." As they shuffled around, Kelly stepped on Roy's foot. He winced. "Still better than your cooking," he muttered. She grinned. "Better than your driving, too." They danced in angry silence, until they both burst out laughing. Because sometimes love isn't candlelit dinners. It's sarcastic footwork and knowing your partner will still offer a hand, even after loading the dishwasher like a raccoon.